Good afternoon and welcome back to Mason Speaks. My name's Mason and today I'm joined by Mr. Max Stockin. Is that how I pronounce it, Max? Sorry, just to
It
check.
is
Is it
indeed.
lovely?
Bang on.
Max, how are you today?
I'm not bad, thank you. How are you?
I am doing pretty well, thank you very much. Uh,
Good.
Max, now some of the people who are watching this probably already know who you are. They've seen you around. You're a very familiar face to a lot in this city.
Yes.
But for those who don't know who you are exactly, do you want to tell everyone what you do?
Yeah, of course. Well, my name's Max Stockin. I'm 26 years old, and I am a full-time musician. Mainly, I do a lot. I do busking. Really, I certainly do gigs and things, but a lot of my income comes from busking, and I busk a lot in Worcester city centre. So you've probably seen me there if you've been walking through Worcester. But I do all over really. I go to places like Stratford and Cheltenham and things like that. But yeah, I'm a musician. I have been for the past 6 years and loving it. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Marvelous. And you say you've been doing it for the last 6 years. Obviously, you didn't always used to do it by yourself, did you? Because nowadays you do it as a individual, and you used to do
That's
it
right.
as a sort of duet, if you like, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, I used to be in a band called the Fidgets. We formed in 2012, and we were together for about, if my math serves me correctly, 6 years. We split up in 2018. So yeah, it was a great thing, but it came to its natural end, and obviously we learned to make a living from music, gigs, busking, all that sort of stuff, and we learned so much together. But then it was time to go on our own, and we both still making a living from it, probably doing better than we did together, really. So yeah, you've either seen me with the Fidgets or on my own, but yeah.
So it wasn't some sort of controversial event that happened which forced you to
No,
split up. It was more of a you thought that was what was best for yourselves individually.
absolutely. I think musical tastes and musical directions and songwriting especially was just going different ways, and we'd learned so much together and we had a great time. But it was just done. I think we had our own ideas and we wanted to go off and do it our own way, which was great. I think it was the best decision we ever made. It could have really, in hindsight, happened a lot earlier, but again, these things you can't turn back time, can you? So it happened the way it did.
That I totally agree. I think sometimes you learn a lot from someone, and I think you'd probably regard it as a high success as well that you had with the
Yeah, it was
Fidgets,
fantastic.
and
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
and although sometimes these things do come to an end, it doesn't mean that they've not worked because it did
Sure.
work. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Sure.
I saw you in town a lot of times
Thank
with
you.
with the Fidgets, and I think myself and anyone else who saw you can agree the chemistry you two had was really good, and
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank
no,
you.
that's all right. And well, I think sometimes, as you say, it comes to a natural end,
Mhm.
and the best move is to go your own separate ways. And you've learned a lot from that experience
Mhm.
as well. In the meantime, is there anything you could pick out that you'd say that's one key thing that you learned from performing with your counterpart?
Um, the key thing, it's a funny. There's a few things. I mean, really, to make a living from it, and because there's not, I wouldn't say skill to be able to do it, but finding out that you can make a living from it and busking really is one thing that's. I mean, even especially nowadays, what's going on, so many people just don't really get that you can make a living from it, which is understandable. I mean, since sitting on a street corner doesn't look like booming success, but it's you can make a lot of money from it. And when we started off doing that, we didn't realize that you could, but we were surprised. And for the first year of us doing it, continued to be surprised the different places we went to and how much you could make. Not I'm saying we made thousands, but certainly more than you expect. Um, and you do think if you went 5 days a week, this is a viable way to live, and that's great because you are literally your own boss and you can do it anywhere, and it's complete freedom, which I think is kind of the key to life, really. I suppose if you want to be all deep about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it that way, that you are effectively self-employed, which you are. You get to work your own
Yeah,
hours. You get
yeah.
to, if a day comes and you think, I really can't be bothered to go out to work today, you don't have to. But obviously, you've then got that motivation behind you as well, thinking, I want to because this is what I love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just a wonderful thing to have. Yeah, that freedom. And you're right. Sometimes you might be. I mean, the weather's a big factor. If it's going to like tomorrow, I can't go out because it's going to be really bad weather. So, you plan for it and you busk the days that are dry in the week, and you look at the days that are bad, and you think, well, those are the days I'll have off. It's a strange thing, but you get used to it after a while. You just get used to planning things like that.
Yeah. Well, as you said, you mentioned it. You said it's not really a skill. I mean, I'd say it's probably a skill. Obviously, lots of people have a talent with music, and
Yes.
lots of people will attempt to do what you've done with the busking. But I think it does take a certain either knowledge or experience or perseverance or a mixture of all
Yeah.
three to get it to work. And like you say, this is your full-time thing. So there must be something that you do different to perhaps other buskers to make it work as a full-time thing for you.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously, I mean, I've met a lot of buskers and a lot of people that do it full time. There's quite a lot of people that do it, and everyone has their own ways. I mean, the biggest difference is obviously everyone has their own style of music and different ways they do it. I mean, I don't use an amplifier, which at all. Everything I do is acoustic, which is the way I like it. But I haven't really met other buskers that do that. Everyone else I've met seems to have amplifiers, which is fine. That's up to them. But it's different instruments and different acts. You know, people do like magician stuff. People do different style of music and the way they interact with people. I saw one guy in Worcester over Christmas and he had different instruments laid out on the street that people could come and play with him, which is quite cool actually. I mean, it's difficult at the moment with COVID, but it was still, I think it was a nice novel idea. But I think, it's kind of finding a niche and what you feel like you're good at and the style that you know works for you, and you just persevere in that style and really make it work. Because there's things that, you know, I think the biggest thing as a musician, I think in any art form, is knowing your limitations. I mean, so many people try and do too much and stuff that doesn't suit you, and it ends up looking a bit naff. Like you kind of know where you know you know what your limits are, and you can't go further than that.
The idea not to sort of force yourself to do something which doesn't work. Everyone's vocal range is different and everyone's abilities are different.
Exactly. And it's just knowing the styles of music that would not suit me, and I wouldn't attempt it because I know that it just wouldn't work. I know what works for me and what I can do to the best that I can do, and it seems to be working. People seem to be enjoying it and still paying. So long as they do, then I'll still keep going, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And if anyone hasn't seen Max perform live, then what I would say is that he does not, by any stretch of the imagination, need an amplifier. He manages to get his voice quite far, and not losing any quality in the sound whilst doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of to say. Thank you.
No, it's that's another skill which you have when other people perhaps don't. I think when you're in town and there's someone busking with an amplifier, although it can still sound good, I think it takes away a little bit of the authenticity of it. It takes a bit of almost an aesthetic to it when you're there with you're there with a guitar or whatever you use as an instrument, and you're just there with your voice doing it all yourself. I think it can still sound really good with an amplifier, but just that sort of, it doesn't give off the same vibe. It gives off more of a commercially kind of thing, if that makes sense, if you know what I mean. I think the idea of street busking, I like the fact personally that it's authentic. You're on the street with an instrument and your voice, and you're just going for it, and I think that really works with how you do it. I mean, now obviously your that's all right. Your skill isn't in doubt at all. What might be in doubt though, however, is obviously, especially with this COVID situation we've got at the moment. Are you worried at all? Because a lot of your income will come from sort of the physical change and cash and coins.
Yeah.
Are you worried about that at all? Obviously, with the society the way it is, it's already going more cashless. People carrying more cards than coins, and now with COVID as well, with the added sort of risk factor of having coins. Are you worried about that at all? Have you got anything to work around that?
Well, it's a funny thing. I've thought about it. I mean, when this obviously when it was all, I think the whole world's kind of, especially England is well into the COVID situation now. We're nearly a year on. I think everyone's kind of certainly done with it. Certainly finished, you know, their enthusiasm for it. They want it to be gone. But at the start of it all in March, I was obviously, when I couldn't busk and it was all stay at home and don't even leave the house. It was I was worried about busking. I thought, will I ever go back to it? How long is it going to be? Who knows? And the cashless thing came up, obviously, because so many shops weren't doing cash and blah, blah, blah. But I went back to it in May last year when I think Boris did an announcement saying that people, non-essential work can go back, basically, if you can't work from home. So I went out and I didn't find a chance. I mean, obviously, there weren't as many people around, so there wasn't as much money around because there weren't as many people. But no, I haven't found the cash situation has changed at all, really. Some people, occasionally, maybe once or twice a day, people say, I haven't got any cash on me today. But there hasn't been like a significant thing where I'm coming back with like six 2p coins and that's it. It's like, I haven't found it's been that much different, really. Which I was surprised.
So I was going to say, and that's all right. And any sort of loss is more due to the fact that there's less people, so it's sort of proportional to the amount of people, and not
Exactly.
It's almost not taking into a factor that cash is becoming less used.
Exactly. And there are still fair few coffee shops and that doing cash, and I think it'll come back. I think I find it hasn't changed really, personally for me. I agree with you. I didn't think it was going to really be different, but it's not. But my plan is this year to get some CDs done up, and I want to you can buy little card machines for quite a cheap price, and I'm going to get one of those just because obviously it will end up we're going into that world where there is less cash, and you're completely right, and it'll affect everybody in some way. And I think if I have a little card machine, I've seen them in shops for quite a cheap amount. I'm going to have one. And then if people want to tap, it's just another opportunity for me to, people can just walk past and tap it. I'll set it at a price and people can just tap, So
yeah, and that's a really nice idea. A way to sort of grow as society does and change as it does. And obviously, you're like I said, you mentioned you said you're 26, so you're quite, I'd imagine, quite in the know with sort of technology and stuff like that. Whereas
I've tried to be,
yeah, which probably makes that a bit easier. But so it's it's good that as a busker you're able to still compete in the world of professions and still be able to do what you want to do and what you enjoy doing. So and that's promising for anyone else who does perhaps like to busk as well, or perhaps even does it as a full-time thing, that there is still ways that you can do it, and you can adapt and change to make it fit better the society we're in now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, you have to. I mean, the world is changing so quickly all the time, regardless of COVID or not. I think obviously things have changed probably irrevocably now with COVID as well coming into the mix. But yeah, you have to keep changing, like I said, for the world, and the fact that it's becoming more digital, you have to keep evolving. Like, I mean, the music industry changes all the time. Like you think 50, 60 years ago, it was just a case of getting signed and making a record, and that was it, really. Social media wasn't even a thing, was it? There was. You could be quite private, really, and still make music. You could just literally make music, and that was it. You didn't even have to really give interviews. But now, like, you have to kind of, you have
to be a personality, don't you?
Exactly, selling yourself as well as the music. The music's just part of it. I kind of think of it as like a pie, and like the music's just a slice of that pie. Whereas back in the day, it was probably 3/4 of it, probably even more. And now it's not. There's so much more involved.
No, I think I totally agree with that. In fairness, because the music, although it's a big selling factor, if you're producing just absolute rubbish music and it's not enjoyable to listen to, then you're less likely to get bored, obviously. But
absolutely,
even if you're producing quality music, if for example you're like talking to a plank of wood, people aren't going to be as interested in you as a person. So in that way, they won't be as interested in your music side of it, which is in a way it's a shame, because there are some really quality musicians who perhaps don't have the enthusiasm or confidence as other people do.
That's a big thing as well. I totally agree.
And then it perhaps does I wouldn't say hinder, because that's not the right word, but it does perhaps maybe, and not even disadvantage, but it's more difficult perhaps for them to succeed in a world which is based around personality and effectively your ability to show yourself on the internet. And I don't mean that in any sort of non-PG way. I mean of course. Solely as just sort of represent yourself on the internet as a person who's likable, and or some people use it as a place to be controversial because they know that that's what gets interactions. So for someone who just wants to play music, just wants to sing songs and play guitar, and not have that sort of fame side of it, is perhaps a little bit harder for them nowadays.
I think so, definitely. I think it's a lot tougher. You can't sort of be as private as if you wanted to. Like you said, if you just all you want to show to the world is your music, which is absolutely fine. I mean, some people can get away with it, absolutely, and it can work, certainly, but it's tougher, and I think it will only get tougher because people want to find out all about you and what you do, and with things like TikTok and Instagram and all these new apps that are coming along, everything's just so immediate and so quick. People see you on a screen for 5 seconds and they just flick of the thumb and it's gone.
Yeah,
and sometimes.
Sorry, carry on. No, it's all right. Carry on.
Music just sometimes isn't enough. Because there's so much music out there. Because anybody can make music now.
Yeah.
I mean, they could anyway, but obviously different back in the day. I'm talking when it was just records. Not everybody could record songs. You had to go to a studio, and that was a case of being signed and blah blah blah. Unless you had enough money to get your own studio, which is obviously a difficult thing. But now you can record it in your bedroom with quite cheap equipment, so anyone can have music out there. And there's so many songs out there. You know, it's just unreal. So just releasing a song and having an advert for a song isn't always enough. There has to be more to it for people to buy into, you know, whether that's through visuals or the person that's singing the song. I don't know, but it's a difficult thing, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, which in a sense is what people buy into. When someone buys a track, they're not just buying it because they like the song or the voice. They're buying it because they know, for example, you know, you might think that's my favorite artist, that's my favorite rapper, that's my favorite singer.
Yeah.
And in that case, you might buy the album without even listening to the first song, because their personality and their track record, if you like, their past releases have given you what you think to be, you know, your favorite person in that industry. And in that case, you just buy it anyway. And then you get sort of loyal fans and supporters as well who are there to try and I suppose that's quite a big impact on anyone who's not a world-renowned global superstar. You know, anyone who's more local or perhaps like yourself. And I'm sure there's people that you know who are really buzzing about your music and like to download everything that you get.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess that must really help and be it not and I don't mean help just as in sort of financially, as in you're getting perhaps some of the wealth from them buying a track, but as in that support to know that people really are enjoying what you're doing.
Certainly, I mean, it's certainly more the support than the money. It is, because obviously, you know, you can spend nowadays you can spend like hundreds of pounds getting a song produced and recorded and released and stuff, and then you know, like I said, you can spend a lot of money, and you could release it and no one could listen to it, and you kind of think, oh, that was not a waste, but it's like, bloody hell, I wish people could hear it. But when you do see people start to interact with music and start to share it and listen to it, and you see on Spotify the streams going up and the views on YouTube and all that sort of stuff, as I suppose you understand with your podcast and stuff, it's rewarding. It really is great, because it shows that people are interested, and it makes it all worthwhile. Even if it's only a few numbers, you know, it just shows that it's on the right path and it's growing and people are interested, which is the main thing. That's what we all do it for, as well as our own happiness. But it's nice for people to be sharing that, I suppose.
As a musician, obviously, a lot of what you do is sort of based around if other people enjoy it as well as yourself,
definitely,
because if you're a musician and you can absolutely love your what you produce yourself, but if it's not being picked up as much by other people, you can struggle sometimes in that. Well, I mean, for me personally, as doing these podcasts, for it's more for me about being able to speak to different people. If I don't get that many views on it, for me it's not that much of an issue, because I'm doing it because I'm enjoying it, and hopefully that, for me, that will be enough for the people that are watching and listening to enjoy it as well. Yeah, but with a musician, it is a bit different, because this isn't my full-time job. I've got another thing going on as I do. This is just something on the side, but for you, obviously, this is your full-time hobby, so you've got to, in a way, be a people pleaser, haven't you? In a way,
yeah, certainly, and and especially with busking as well.
Because if people don't enjoy for whatever reason what you're doing, then they might not give that money that they would have given. So you've got to take note of what other people like and what's trending at the time, I guess.
Definitely, yeah. Especially with busking and in writing your own stuff for different reasons. Busking is about not just playing the same sort of stuff that everybody else is. You kind of, I mean, I didn't plan it when I started off. I just played what I loved, and it seems to work. So I suppose I've looked out with that one. I didn't kind of draw a blueprint when I started off, but you do hear the same sort. There's some. I mean, I'm not obviously having to go at anybody else. I mean, each to their own, and everyone's got their own great style. But you do hear the same sorts of instruments, and the way those instruments are played, you hear that a lot. Especially people that sing to backing tracks and stuff, which is great. That's totally up to them, but it's not for me. But I do feel as though what I do is not that. So it's a different thing what I do. So I think being different and the songs I sing are different compared to what I do hear a lot of other people doing, I do think that gives me an edge. Like I said, it's not planned. I only sing what I love. I don't sit at home thinking, I don't sit there and pick the most obscure songs on the internet. I just sing what I want to sing, and if I hear a song that I love, I'll sing it, and it seems to be working. What that is, I don't know. There's obviously some hidden formula, which is I don't even know what the answer is, but it seems to work. But like I said, that's only what I've found. That's only what I've found. Sorry, go on.
So I was going to say, I think that the fact that you're enjoying it so much is directly relevant to why other people are enjoying it so much. Because if they can see and feel that you're
Yeah, I think
enjoying
that's a big factor.
it comes to them as well. So like, if you're there really getting into it and really being passionate about what you're doing, people are going to think, this is good. I like this. So if you're there sort of half-heartedly singing, to a song which is okay, but you don't really like it that much, they're going to know.
Yeah. I think it's a big part.
You're showing them how you feel and what you mean when you're doing this, because this is what you do. This is your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it certainly comes across, especially with busking. No matter how you're doing it, like I said, not whatever format you do it in is totally up to you, and I'm sure it'll sound great. But it is a big part of it is what people see, because obviously busking is obviously listening, but it's also visual. People can see you when they see what you're doing, they see what you're playing, and I think it comes across. There's obviously some. How it comes across, I don't know. There's just a way in which you perform, as you said. I think if you look like you're enjoying it, I think it certainly comes across. Like anything, though, not just music, any form of anything, I suppose. If you're enjoying it, it certainly shows, and if you're not, it shows again.
It's the whole sort of performer's curse almost. I mean, if you're having a really bad day, then the chances are when you're performing, you're not gonna portray what the image that you want to do.
Exactly.
I guess that can be
almost.
Yeah, I guess that can be sort of detrimental sometimes. When you wake up, get out of bed, and stub your toe on the corner of your bed, and then you set yourself up for a bad day. But I mean, what you were saying about the sort of some people using the same sort of or similar, backing tracks and that kind of thing, and using the same style a lot. I mean, for example, for myself, when I was at school, I can't remember how many times people sang in assembly the same song, "Wonderwall" by Oasis.
Yeah, that's a classic. Yeah,
that was probably sung about 60 million times by 60 million different people in the space of a year.
Absolutely,
and they all do it really well and really lovely, and but it is nice to switch it up a bit and hear something, perhaps a song you haven't heard for a while. But
yeah, definitely.
I think we spoke quite a lot about music now. And obviously, that's not just the only aspect of your life. Obviously, there's a person behind the performer as well. So, well, maybe anyway. That's what we're gonna find out. So, do you want to maybe talk a bit about yourself before, maybe what you did before music, or has it always been a part of your life?
No, it hasn't actually. I didn't get into music properly until I was about 17. Before that, music wasn't even a thing. I didn't even think about it. I used to I've always been quite creative. I used to enjoy writing stories and drawing and coming up with different creations and stuff. I always quite liked doing that as a kid and through teenage years and stuff. Which I always liked fantasy and sci-fi and that sort of stuff. I'm a bit of a nerd, really. I always enjoyed that, and creating your own things. And then when I was 17, I think I was downstairs at my parents' house, and an advert came on with Queen. "Don't Stop Me Now" was the song, and I'd never heard it before. I was really oblivious to music before that. I didn't listen to music at all. And I said, "Who's this?" And my mum said, "Oh, it's Queen. You must know the Queen." I said, "No, I've never heard of Queen." So I went upstairs and listened to it, and then that's when the music thing started. And I really got into music then, and then it kind of carried on to where I am now. But no, before that, not at all, really. I used to enjoy like creating stories and making up characters and things like that. I suppose like most kids do, really. But I
suppose music, like creativity has always been a big part of your life then, whether it's in music or in some other form.
Absolutely. I think I always wanted to be doing something creative, whether it was being an author or an artist or whatever. I don't know. I always had those feelings of wanting to be something creative. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that definitely gives you a helping hand in your current profession. But
I think so. Yeah.
But when sort of your creativity, do you think there's anywhere where that stemmed from initially, or is it just something is it as far back as you can remember? Was there something that triggered it, or is your first memory I don't know, drawing a superhero or something? You know what I mean? Is there something that you can pinpoint it to?
It's a weird thing, isn't it? It's like how is anyone interested in anything they do? It's a funny thing. You just have no idea where it comes from. It's just kind of there. There's things I'm not a very sporty person, as you can probably tell, but I used to play football a bit at school, but I was like in the playground. It was never like professional, like trying to be professional.
Yeah.
I think it's just what's in your genetic makeup, I suppose, and what you're into and what you're not. For me, it was always being creative. I've always done it since I was, as far as I can remember. I always enjoyed watching, like, just being into like fantasy and that sort of stuff, and
almost an escape
and
from reality. Perhaps sometimes it
it
takes.
could well be hidden deep down there. You never know, do you?
But I mean, in a really positive way, sort of that creativity is a release for a lot of people, I think.
Totally, yeah, definitely.
And being able to be creative and do what you want to do and be free with it really can help people's mental state. I'd say. I think
totally, yeah.
I think if you're given a chance to release your true feelings in a different form, then I think that can really help. I mean, people use dance as therapy and all sorts of things, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a big thing, and it's especially at the moment with all this lockdown and all these things. Being creative and what helps your mental state is such an important thing. And creativity, as you said, is such a big thing in so many ways, like dance or drawing or art or writing stories or whatever it is. It's such an important thing to be able to do, and music's a big part of it. So yeah, it's great, and it's good to be able to still hope, well, as long as I can busk during all this. It's tricky, and you obviously have to stay safe, but I can't sit at home and not play. I feel like it's just I can't. It's not good for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about sort of that change. If it becomes a thing where you perhaps can't busk, or maybe just naturally you stop doing it. I mean, have you got plans for the future on what you want to do in regards to music, or?
Oh, I don't know really. I mean, at the moment I've the past since the physics broke up. I mean, even before that, I was saving up money to work on my solo project and still record and write my own songs. So this year I've released 4 songs last year. I've got 4 and 1 collaboration last year. I've got another one coming out on the 31st of January, and I've got 4 of the projects I need to get through this. 4 of the songs I want to get released this year. Obviously, it's 5 actually. Sorry, forgive me, it's 5. An album and 4 of the songs which I want to get released this year. So I've got quite a lot to do at the moment with my solo projects.
So you're just taking it one day at a time and taking it in it now rather than looking too much into the future, which is a great way to do it. I mean, I can tell you've got so many ideas going around in your head. Like you're trying almost finding it hard to choose which one to say, which is a great trait to have.
I couldn't remember how many songs I had then, but it's great. Yeah, and I wanted to just keep getting songs out there and keep going. And when it dries up, it dries up. I mean, the good thing is with busking, I think, and what I'm blessed and what I'm so happy to be able to do is because you can do it anywhere really, and I know how I can make money from it and what to do, and you know, like anything, once you've done it after a while to learn how to do it, like driving a car, you learn how to do it after a while. And it's the same thing with busking, you learn what works and what doesn't. So I'll always have the skill. Whether or not it'll keep making a living, I don't know. I mean, that's another thing that's time will tell. At the moment, it's still going great, so I can't complain. But who knows? In 2 years, it might have dried up, but you just never know. The state of the world, who knows what's going to happen? It's one of them crazy things that you just don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you say with the state of the world, it's sometimes that sort of music and the arts and everything like that is what other people need to keep them going as well as you keep yourself going, because it's an escape, isn't it, as well in that case, because people are getting a chance to just focus on what's being sung or what they're, if it's an artwork, they're just focusing solely on what they're looking at, and that can be really helpful for people. I mean, personally, myself throughout lockdown, obviously spending a lot of time at home, I think without artists, whether it's a music artist or a performer or something like an actor,
sure.
How would we have coped? We're all at home, and what did we all do? We all put the telly on, didn't we? We all put the telly and the radio on. So
this is a big thing, and it's like I think it'll always survive, and I think it will have to. It's certainly, especially this year, I think it's certainly got to. The industry has certainly got to start moving again, because otherwise there won't be anything left. And as you said, when everyone was at home, Netflix was the main thing, and listening to music and watching podcasts and whatever it was on the internet. It was a massive part. I think it showed that the entertainment industry and the arts industry is exceptionally so important to just life in general. I mean, imagine how boring it would be if there was none of this. It needs to be there. And I think it needs, especially this year, it needs to start moving again in a big way. There needs to be new, fresh ideas, and theatre and shows and live music is such an important thing. And it has. I understand there's a problem, of course, but there needs to be some form of it soon because people love doing it.
And I think they will. I think
Yes,
at some
absolutely.
point it will come back, and come back better than ever, because it's people have almost been deprived of it for the last year. So
Totally.
I think
Yeah,
there's going to be a
absolutely.
huge uptake in it. So when the performers come back, and theatre plays can be done again properly, and music events, I think people are going to have missed it so much. Everyone's going to want to buy a ticket. You know, the first sort of, I can imagine the first Adele concert, for
Oh
example,
yeah,
after
totally.
COVID is going to be a sellout in minutes. You know,
Of course, of course,
when
of course.
COVID is quote over, if you like, if it ever comes to a point where it's officially, you know, we can say, oh, it's over, everyone go back to normal, you know, the town's going to be heaving. You know, for someone like yourself, you're going to be in town busking all day, you'll have a brilliant day, and then you'll go
It's
home
going to be,
with,
mate. Yeah, it's going to be
you'll be
fantastic.
counting
Yeah.
you'll be counting with your fingers and toes how much money you've picked up from it. But you know, it's that kind of thing. I think that's going to be such an intake when it all comes back. So hopefully, if people can stick it out somehow, can cope somehow, and still remain as enthusiastic about it for when they come back, I think it can be a really
Yeah, I agree.
positive thing that can happen from this. And I think that is a nice positive note to end this podcast on. So
Yes,
um
absolutely.
but before we do that, I just want to ask Max, there's two things actually. First of all, where can people find you and find your music?
Well, it's quite simple. My social media handle, as I say, is at Max Stockin Music. So just type that into the internet or any social media platform, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all those sort of things. And all my music comes up on there. The main thing to follow is my Facebook page and my Instagram page. Again, at Max Stockin Music, it comes up straight away, and all my updates are on there. And I update 3 or 4 times a week actually. And I'm always on there. If you want to drop me a message and say hello, I'm always happy to talk to you. And it's great to meet new people. And all my music's on there. And I've got a new song called One Day coming out on the 31st of January. So don't miss out on that.
Perfect. And if anyone you know, does, and hopefully you will, go and check out Max's social medias and listen to some of his music, let us know in the comments what you thought of it. You know, whether it's extremely positive or just a bit positive. I'm sure I can't imagine there'll be any.
Let me know, and I'll see
Well,
if I
if
can
it's negative, maybe privately message him and say you could do this better. But
yeah.
but no, if you listen to his music, then let us know, and let us know what you think about it. I'm sure it'll be really nice for Max to see that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Max, thank you so much for being on for us.
Thank you for having me on. It's been
No
great.
problem. There is one question I do like to ask everybody before we
Of
end,
course. Okay.
and it's a pretty serious question. So you might need a minute to think about it. Okay.
Okay. I'm prepared.
If you could only have one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, bloody hell, that is a big question. I wasn't expecting it to be that, though. That's interesting. One meal. It has to be something Italian. I love Italian food.
We talking pasta or?
Yeah, definitely. I love maybe a nice big pizza, a nice proper Italian, probably a nice proper Italian pizza. I did a few gigs last year at this place in Sardinia, a pizzeria restaurant thing, and there was a bar attached to it, and I did a few shows on this little stage, and we got free food for the gig, and proper Italian pizzas, you know, like paper wafer thin crusts and seafood pizza, and you just have every form of seafood on it. It was just unbelievable. Probably that, actually. I'll go with that.
Love that. That is a good choice. Tell you what, we've had a variety of different choices from.
I can imagine. Yeah,
we've had the MP of Worcester say that he would have a spaghetti bolognese with parmesan. That's his meal of choice, and obviously that's, I believe, has Italian roots too. So
yes,
unless I'm just being completely racist there, but I think it has Italian roots. So yeah, no, brilliant choice. Anyway, like I said, thank you so much for coming on, Max. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. I'm going to leave Max's links to his social media sites and Spotify in the description as well. So if anyone wants to check it out, then please do so there and let us know. But other than that, this has been Mason and Max on Mason Speaks, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.